fellow Liberians. I bring you greetings and felicitation as we all celebrate our bicentennial. We can celebrate that the Lord has kept us as a nation state for 200 years. I say to you this morning, in union strong, success is sure. We cannot fail. With God above our rights to prove, we will over all prevail. As we celebrate this bicentennial, let me give some historic reflection of the grace of God and how the Lord has brought us together as a nation. As you know, that Liberia, this wonderful and beautiful country of ours, has a very, very, very peculiar history. I'd like to begin our reflection today as we celebrate bicentennial on where we come from, where we are, and where we are going. What was this Liberia before the coming of the settlers? Liberia before 1822 was inhabited by people from the Niger Plateau of Africa, Central Equatorial Africa, who settled here, moved here to this land. The earlier to arrive of the Gola, the Vide, the Kru, and the Kisi tribe. They arrived here early and settled in this land, even before the settlers came in. As though people settled, their nature of life was characterized with peace and prosperity. What was their economy? Their economy was fused by subsistence farming and petty trading. What was their form of government? Chieftaincy, kings, and traditional leadership. What was their religion? Like any other heathen nation, they believe in animism, spiritism, and ancestral worship. So if you collectively put the livelihood of our people together, they believe in African traditional religion. But while that was going on with the occupation of our country, Liberia, the transatlantic slavery was going on very severely, and people were taken from Africa and taken to America and other parts of the world to work on farms. And by then, may I just say to you, some of the people we call strangers today and are giving them new names were people taken from Africa. Our brothers, our fathers were taken to those slaves. So with the stayed many years, by the 1700s, and the anti-slavery movement came, and there was this revolution, or industrial revolution, where now machines were being made to work on farm. They did not need any more human effort on those farms. So the need to repatriate or resettle those slaves became paramount. And at the time, the American government thought that their continuous stay in America would be threatening to the economy, and the growth would become wide, and there would be some social difficulties. Therefore, NGOs were formed to repatriate and resettle these black slaves. So they were moved on to Missouri, Louisiana, where they settled down pending the repatriation. And there were 3 NGOs formed to help the repatriation process. The Pennsylvania Colonization Society, the American Colonization Society, and the Mississippi Colonization Society. These societies were formed with the aim of being supported by the American government to resettle these blacks to their original home. But this is what is peculiar about our country. During this period, there were 7 men. For instance, you have Robert Stockton of the New York Bible Society. We have John Caldwell. We have Ebenezer Burgess. Those guys were all Christians who gathered in Missouri. And while repatriation was going on, they were concerned as to where they would go. So since they were all Christian, the Bible Society, John Finley of the Bethel Church of Philadelphia, they all gathered together and began to pray, Lord, what would you lead, or what would be your direction for us? Surprisingly, may I just say to you, which history I have forgotten, that our country, Liberia, was born out of prayers. Our country came out of a prayer room, and I'm honored as a pastor to share with you Liberians so that you see the peculiarity of our nation and the greatness and the connection that we have to heavenly orchestration. As they prayed, the Lord spoke expressly to them, and I'm privileged to bring to you the prophetic utterance that brought our country into existence. Number 1, I have it right here, 1816, when they met at Missouri to pray. And the Lord said, I will take my people to a land called Green Coast. That's the first instruction he gave in our prayer room. Number 2, that in that land I shall make my name known to all surrounding nations. Number 3, it shall be a land of freedom for all. Number 4, My voice shall be heard to the rest of the world from that nation. Number 5, they shall be my people as unto Jacob, Israel. Number 6, I shall be unto them as a son and identity. Number 7, for ye shall know the land when none shall die upon treading. Ladies and gentlemen, by this prophecy, the Mayflower, Elizabeth, left February 6, 1821, seeking a land for the people with 88 men on board. They did not come to our land immediately, and that's why I want to know. Now the problem is, if these prophecies are true, then we can believe, for it is said, when the prophet speaks and it come to pass, then that prophet can be authenticated. Now, with these prophecies that the Lord gave, I want us to follow Liberia and see what already took place, what it came to pass. So let me take you back into history. He said he will take us to a new land. But let me say, in 1821, number 1, he said, I will take my people to the land called Green Coast. 1821, Liberia called Green Coast. That means that prophecy was correct. Liberia was called Green Coast. That was originally prophecy correct. Number 2, he said that land shall be made of my name. 1844-46, Liberia was called Christopolis. Morovia was called Christopolis. The land named after the Lord. Second prophecy correct. The country will never colonize. He says it shall be a free land. We will never colonize. America is now a colonization. Is that a group that colonized us? We have been free. That prophecy number 3. Number 4, Liberia was the first to air the gospel. He said, from that land shall my voice be heard. Through LY, we launched the gospel. And all Africa heard the gospel from Liberia. Number 5, we shall be unto them as of Israel. Let's look at Liberia and Israel. That's why I think that Liberia is Israel in Africa. 400 years they were in slavery. From 1700 to the 1800s, and the time 19 we were 400 is 400 years. They crossed the sea, the Red Sea. We crossed the Atlantic Ocean to get there and settle this land. How are we so similar to Israel? Number 5, when you get to the land. Number 6, he said, when you get to the land, I shall be the identity. Have you seen the seal of Liberia? Look at the seal, look at the palm tree, look at the dove coming down, the palm tree, the righteous shall flourish like a palm tree. The ship is coming, bringing the people across. Their sons shall come from afar to a land where my name shall be known. If you go down, and then he says that the wheelbarrow, the shovel, for the workings of the Lord shall be as unto the dicker of the rain who sowed the ground. So we became prophetic just by our identity of the Lord. Not only that, he said, when you get to the land, none shall die. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what amazes me much. That when they left America, they sailed to a place called Abeokuta, where they settled. That is some part of Nigeria. On the first voyage, 36 persons died less than 12 hours. Ebenezer said, the prophecy says, when we get to the land, none shall die. So let's move, this is not the place. They moved from Abeokuta and they began to sail eastward. They got to a place called Lions Mountain, today Sierra Leone. It was called Sherbrooke. They settled at Sherbrooke. 46 died within less than 24 hours. Within 48 hours. They then gathered and said, this cannot be the land, because the prophecy says, when we get to the land, none shall die. And so then they gathered again, begin to sail eastward. While they sailed eastward, to the amazement, they hit against the bank in a small island called Doiseau Island. Today, the island you call Providence was Doiseau Island. Omen Doiseau welcomed them on our island. And I thank God for Ellen Johnson Sally, who just remembered and named the new bridge Doiseau Bridge, because that's our history that we're forgetting. When they got on Doiseau Island, they settled down the island. Then they said, let's wait and see what will happen here. Deacon Judy Ashman walked up the hill and settled up the hill. For 3 days, he was there praying. And while the rest of the people waited for him, hoping that maybe a wild animal would take it, maybe he would die, maybe something would happen, and that would not be the land. Fortunately, to the glory of God, Judy Ashman settled. On the 3rd day, Judy built an altar. He said, upon this rock I shall build up a Providence. It is that place where Providence Baptist is today, and they call that street Ashman Street in the name of Judy Ashman. He walked back to the island, and there was a great celebration that he's here. And they named the island, this island should be a place of providence. That's how it's called Providence Island, but it was Doiseau Island. And these people gather, ladies and gentlemen, say our Bicentennial is important that we get this history, because those who don't know the history will not know where they are going. So we came together as a nation, and they began to settle down, and they settled and said, this is the land. And they settled. In 1847, they announced ourselves to the nation, and they begin to tell the world who we were. Ladies and gentlemen, on that morning of July 26th, after they had gone through all the constitutional formalities to make us announce ourselves as a nation, because the Portuguese were fighting to take us, the British were fighting to take us, the French were fighting, everyone. There was expansionism all over Africa. They were taking land, and we needed to announce ourselves, even though we did not have an army, even though we were not structurally strong, but our people thought that we were a sovereign nation, and we needed to let the world know who we were. So on the midday of July 26th, Jacob Pratt, the Sino representative, being ordered by Samuel Benedict, who was the Chief Justice, but then was acting as a president because Joseph Jenkins Ravels had traveled to the United States. And Samuel Benedict instructed Jacob Pratt to stand up at midday and to declare to the world. Let me read to you what he told the world. Therefore, we, the people of the Commonwealth of Liberia in Africa, acknowledge with divine gratitude the goodness of God in granting to the blessing of Christian religion and political religion and civil liberty, do in order to secure this blessing for ourselves and our posterity, and to establish justice, ensure domestic peace, and promote general well-being, hereby solemnly associate and constitute ourselves a free and sovereign independent state by the name and style Republic of Liberia. Ladies and gentlemen, to say we were founded on Christian principle is an honest statement. By this declaration, we are a Christian nation. The state religion should be a Christianity. Nevertheless, as I do intend to argue this, because of globalization, because we want to own, and right now Liberia, and I don't say this out of prejudice as you listen to me as a pastor, I just discovered that we have Muslims, we have atheists, we have different groups, and the need to live together cannot be overemphasized. The need to encourage peaceful coexistence cannot be overemphasized. Nevertheless, in our quest to live together, we are not to remove the ancient landmark that were laid by our fathers. So I see there was an error somewhere. In 1986, the constitution was changed and suspended when the military took over. And they changed us and called us a secular state. May I submit to you, a mistake on your birth certificate does not change your identity. We remain a Christian state. And so today, as we celebrate this bicentennial, I say to all Liberians, let's not forget our root. For the God of Israel brought us here for a purpose. And what was that purpose? To Christianize and civilize the rest of Africa. It is still our responsibility. Reflect as you celebrate bicentennial. 200 years. It may not look that way by your development, but by divine orchestration, we were positioned here to civilize the rest of the world, to Christianize the rest of Africa. It is still God's intention for us as a nation. Look at the thing as you celebrate bicentennial, how the grace of God has helped. 1882. You remember? History said there was a pending invasion. General Havoc of the British Army, having taken over Sierra Leone, threatening to take us over in 24 hours. They sent a letter to our president, the then president, Anthony W. Gardner. The old man being so old and Liberia had no army, and the old man resigned immediately. And by constitutional provision, we saw in Alfred F. Russia, his vice president. Alfred, also being a friend, did not know what to do, asked the country to gather at Providence, at the shrine of the nation, at the cornerstone of the nation. And the church gathered, and we prayed. And at midday, a strange gunboat came and launched the British gunboat. And our people could not explain that miraculous act. So in 1883, the legislature passed a bill that every second Friday would be fast and prayer day. Can you see how the generation before us did not forget God? In 1914, the Germans threatened to overtake us again. We prayed and God intervened. I say to you, as we celebrate, the same God who intervened in 1883, the same God who intervened, that same God who stopped the Ebola, that same God who has regularized the COVID, who has convicted COVID, that same God is celebrating our bicentennial. Let us not forget. Thank you for other religion. You are welcome to be here, but this land belongs to Jesus, and it should at no time, in any generation be thwarted that this country, Liberia, Africa's first Negro independent republic, was founded as a Christian nation and must remain a Christian nation. Happy bicentennial, and God bless you.